First of all, sorry for speaking in English. Unfortunately, my French is not enough for such a very expertise audience. But also take into account that today is a Spanish National Day, so it's a bit strange for me as a Spaniard celebrating the Spanish National Day in Paris. You need to think about that. And also I'm going to speak in English, so it's a really crazy situation today for me. Second point, of course, thanking OST for inviting me to this presentation, especially to Ghislaine and of course all of you for attending, and also inviting you at the end of the presentation for discussing, for changing ideas about the topics I'm going to introduce you today, because I think as important as the information I intend to show is to know your opinion or to know your experience or your criticism about the work we are doing, because we think it's very important, this kind of change and your own input. Okay, the presentation will be available on the website of OST, and you can download and use as you prefer, because one of the most important things I am supporting is open access initiatives. I am a believer in open access, so you are free to use the slides, but please citing the source, of course, citing the author. Okay, this is a very personal presentation. It's our individual point of view about these topics. It's not complete because we have only 3 quarters for explaining, so there are many other tools, especially tools that can be included, but I think the overall presentation gives you a good idea about the topics. Okay, well, you know, even today, bibliometrics is playing a very important role. I know I have yesterday a meeting with the people of the OST, and of course, bibliometrics and the traditional citation databases are still very important. You know that the situation is changing even in the field of bibliometrics in the last years, especially because now we have new citation databases. I am not talking about Scopus, that is already several years old. I am talking about the free citation databases. The free word is very important here because you know, we have in Europe a general funding crisis, and the prices and the way we are accessing the traditional citation databases is very expensive, and perhaps in the future the only alternatives, not because of technical reasons, but because of economic reasons, will be one of these 2 new large citation databases. And of course, this is not part of the topic of this presentation, you can consider the new bibliometric indicators that has been developed in the last years, especially with the introduction of the H-index. There is a lot of new developments there, but of course we are not going to talk about them in this presentation. You know, there is still a lot of problems regarding bibliometric analysis. Well, there is a maturity in this discipline, but we have a lot of problems. Perhaps one of the most important is the freshness of data. Now everybody wants to know the current situation, for example, the impact of the crisis on the research and development arena. So the big problem is the data we are collecting from WOS or from Scopus is probably 2 or 3 years old. So it's not easy to understand the current situation taking into account the information is so old. So we need a citation window or analytic window even smaller than 1 year. And currently this is not easy using the bibliometric data. The other thing is bibliometric data is regarding peers, regarding only a closed environment formed by the academicians, university professors, scientists, but only this closed group. And perhaps especially, and not only for innovation purposes, but also for the impact on society, we need to know not only the impact on this close group of actors, but also the impact on the rest of the society. Non-academic sectors are very important, and as you know, citation analysis is only concerning the links between the partners in the academia. And finally, perhaps we need more information if we intend to expand this universe of actors to the whole society. We need to understand in a better way what are the motivations, the reasons for linkings, to build a better theory that explain not only the reasons for traditional scientific citation, scientific linking, but non-scientific linking in the environment of academia and research centers. We are focusing this presentation on the new information metrics subdisciplines. Some of them are already a bit old. Well, webometrics start more or less mid-90s, but the other parts of other new subdisciplines are really very young, perhaps only 2 or 3 years old. So it can be very interesting for you to know what are the current developments in these new emerging disciplines. Well, the main reasons for these disciplines, we are focusing or trying to focus on larger audiences. I refer, for example, even larger audiences in the scientific fields, considering, for example, researchers coming from emerging or developing countries. I have worked with Latin American colleagues that many times said, okay, we are playing an important role in the development of science in our country, very important for the economy, but we are isolated from the rest of the world, and this situation clearly needs to change. You need to take into consideration not only your peers in the Western countries, but also the new actors in Asia, in Latin America, even in Africa, that I think is very important. Well, till now, bibliometrics focus on formal communication, you know, papers published in international high impact factor journals. Well, peer review processing here is relevant, but it can be found in other means. So we are talking informal communication, but informal communication also including some kinds of new peer review processes, but we need to consider these informal communication processes. And finally, we need to combine all of them. To combine all of them means to build a new portfolio of indicators. You know, when you are using bibliometrics, you have basically 2 main indicators: number of papers or books or patents or something like that, and numbers of citations, the impact of this scientific production. You can combine both of these indicators and you can obtain new indicators, but basically the current portfolio consists only of 2 or 3 different indicators. We need to enlarge this portfolio to incorporate new alternatives. And here is the key slide of my presentation. This is our current view about the iMetrics for the new century. You have traditional bibliometrics using citation analysis. Everybody knows about this discipline, clearly more or less built from SciScI, really very useful, especially in Europe, probably more in Europe than the United States, where the situation is a bit different. Bibliometrics is not so popular in the United States. You have webometrics. We are going to talk about the origin of webometrics and some of the basic ideas and new indicators. But the webometrics is already 15 years old, starting mid-90s, so we have a lot of information. iMetrics is a completely new development. iMetrics Manifesto is only 2 or 3 years old, and well, it's based on mention analysis. You can see we are naming each one of the disciplines and also the most important analytical tool for each discipline. So citation analysis for bibliometrics, link analysis for webometrics, mention analysis for iMetrics. The presence of the scientific information in the current new web communication tools, especially in Web 2. So we need to focus on this. And finally, usage metrics, the analysis of the consumption of information that is available from the web. This is so new that really there are not many papers or contributions in this area, because there are technical problems still, but perhaps it's one of the most promising issue, because we are talking here about several dozens, probably even hundreds of different variables involved. So if we have analysis to the log files of the websites, academic websites, the amount of information and the diversity of information is really very promising for developing studies in the future. I'm going to focus on a new development of bibliometrics. Clearly, bibliometrics is not the core of this presentation, but I think it's important to consider one part of the development that is very close to the web environment. And this is the profiling. I'm going to introduce you the two new citation databases I mentioned before, that is Google Scholar and Microsoft Academic Search. One of the main characteristics, as I mentioned, is both of them are free to use. You can go to the web and scan your name, the name of your institution, and obtain a lot of data. Google Scholar is far larger than any other competitors. Think about WOS and Scopus is about 40 million records or 14 million something records. Google Scholar is over 100 million records, so clearly is far larger. Academic Search is based on similar databases to WOS or Scopus, so the number is very close. You need to see this big difference between both. Perhaps that means Microsoft Academic Search data is more reliable, because it's more close to the data source that has been accepted by WOS and Scopus, so you can think this is a good measure of reliable. But Google Scholar is collecting data from far different sources. Perhaps individually every source is reliable, but when you are combining, there is a problem of quality control, a serious problem of quality control in the case of Google Scholar. The big advantage of Google Scholar, apart of the big size, is current information. Really, Scholar is adding information every day. So you can check the information 2 weeks ago, and it's completely different to the current information you can obtain. Unfortunately, it's not the same case as Academic Search. I think probably Academic Search is still in beta version, but the problem is the information they are offering now is basically the same that was offered last summer. That was when this product was introduced. So it's already 1 year old. And you need to think about it. But this is not the main interest for me from these products. For me, the most interesting is the two mechanisms, the two systems for profiling from Google Scholar and Microsoft Academic Search. In the case of Google Scholar, it's called Google Scholar Citations. It's a very interesting system because it's made on a voluntary basis. So you need to register in order to obtain your profile, but the profile is made automatically, when you are requesting, is made automatically by Google Scholar. So you register in Google, you obtain the profile, and you can personalize, you can tune up as you prefer. This paper is not by me, this paper is not present, so I can add it, and so on. The situation in Microsoft Academic Search is completely different. They made automatically the profiles and then offer you the possibility, if you register, to tuning up the record. So that means that, for example, you can see this with a figure, the total number of profiles in citations is about 100,000 researchers from all over the world, but the total number of profiles in academic search is 20 million. But you need to take into account that many of these 20 million are in fact duplicates, because not many people are working on them, are cleaning the duplicate, and are unifying the profiles. You can see here in example. This is one webometrician researcher, a very famous webometrician researcher based on Israel, and she decided to create the profile. She needs to register, and she obtains this slide. And you can see not only information about the number of papers, but also the number of citations, or even the number of co-authors. You need to consider that the presence of the photo and the names of the disciplines are made by the author herself. So in this case, you can say, okay, there is no webometrics in the keywords. Well, this is a decision made by Judith. But this is perhaps problematic because you cannot assign by yourself, you cannot search by yourself using the keyword webometrics because she decided not to use it. Well, as you can see, the topics are in blue. That means these are links. And if you click on the links, you can go to a ranking of this topic according to the data available in data citations. It's very interesting, not because you have a ranking that is, of course, not complete. There are many other people, for example, specializing in bibliometrics than these people. Of course, the list is larger. I only saw the top ones. But the interesting topic for me is, after a lot of debate about new indicators, bibliometric indicators, Google Scholar very cleverly decided the best indicator for ranking people is the old-fashioned number of citations. No H-index, no G-index, no very sophisticated index. The traditional total number of citations for them, it's interesting to know that, for them is the best ranking criteria. Well, this is the Microsoft Academic Search alternative. As you know, this is made automatically, and you can see here, in this case, Microsoft has 3 different profiles. Probably this one is made by himself, but he has no time for combining with the other ones. So there is a lot of noise here. But you can see the presentation is richer than the presentation offered by Google Scholar Citations. For example, you have graphs, and you have not only information about the co-authors, but information about the topics, about the journals, and so on. And very important, the topics here are not coined by the author himself. In this case, it's provided automatically by the system. So it's similar, but not equal to the approach by Google Scholar. It's interesting in the possibilities of visualization of data. This is done automatically, and here you can see, for example, the relationships between Michel Sid and, for example, Benedetto Lepori. Well, you have a very important key role here. And this is done automatically. You can think about the quality of this information, but you have a lot of possibilities of visualization not available from Google Scholar Citation. For example, you can here obtain here the co-author, or you can see the citation graph. So there is a lot of possibilities. Obviously, if everybody is adding photographs at the end, you have a very good. Oh, sorry, Remis. Yeah. Okay. You need to add, both of you need to add your photos. Okay, one of the additional advantages from Microsoft is they are providing not only for authors, but for other units profiles. For example, this is the case for institutions. They are providing a profile. In this case, it's University College of London, and you can see a similar approach to those we already saw in the case of authors. In this case, for institutions. There is a lot of institutions. Not everyone. I tried to locate OST. OST is not. Sorry, OST is not. Well, I already said it's a beta version. It's a beta version.
Yes,
so
that's a reason.
the main reason. Well, I'm going to focus now on the new disciplines, webometrics. Well, I am in this discipline since 15 years ago, and the situation changed completely. Probably at mid-90s, even at the very beginning of this century, web was interesting but not central to academic communication. But now, without any doubt, I think web is already the main scholarly communication tools. Clearly, everybody should know about that. And this means a lot of advantages. We are considering huge audiences. The total number of people using internet in the world is over 2 American billions, 2,000 million people all over the world. The audiences are huge. They are, the information provided is very diverse. Even coming from the academia, you have a lot of very important information from the informal point of view. We are thinking about blogs, for example, or we are thinking about social networks, a lot of web pages. Even Wikipedia is becoming more and more important for referencing some kind of information. And with many actors involved. This is very relevant for OST, I think, because we are considering not the closed environment, as I mentioned, of scientists, but also people benefiting or using or exploiting the results of research. We are talking about economic sector, industrial sectors, but also the implications for policy, the community engagement, not only the technological transfer, but the knowledge transfer. And you need to know the people at the other side of this process. And this is one of the main advantages of the web approach. You have access to that people. You have access to the true impact your actions are having on these people, or at least their opinions about this research you are doing. Well, this is not a revolution, because webometrics is, you can see, it's called webometrics originally with the O, because the person who coined, and that is Professor Inversen from Denmark, want to state the close relationship of this discipline with bibliometrics. This is the reason for the O. And this, for me, is very important. When some people say webometrics or webmetrics are the same, yes, but not yes, because the basic idea here is we are going to try to use webometrics as a complementary tool to bibliometrics, not instead of bibliometrics, but jointly to bibliometrics. And this means also using the same ideas and sometimes similar tools to those used in bibliometrics. We have powerful advantages. The most important is we are considering as a source, for example, the traditional commercial search engines like Google, like Yahoo, like Bing. We are talking about databases in the order of, I don't know, 800,000 millions web pages. We are talking about billions, European billions of links. So we have very huge databases. The main tool is link analysis. Well, link analysis is not citation analysis, okay, but citation analysis is a link analysis. You can think in this way. And if you think from this point of view, link analysis is richer, more diverse. That means more problematic. There is more noise. They are more difficult to interpret motivations. Okay, it's more difficult. It's really a big problem, but you have more information to analyze. You have a freshness concept. The information is really fresh. Google is updated not every day. It's updated every minute. So, for example, the most important newspapers are including data about, for example, the last scientific Nobel Prize, just in the moment Stockholm is announcing it. And immediately you have this information, and you have the impact of this information in other sectors. And from the point of view of authors, producers, it's very easy to edit, it's very cheap. You don't need to be in a very rich Western laboratory to produce a very interesting page. You can contribute even in a small agriculture laboratory in Indonesia, for example. This is an example I know. So it's interesting. Well, there are major disadvantages, of course. I am not trying to sell the advantages, but also to know about the major problem. There is a problem for which I am not working. It's a problem about the theoretical background. Of course, we need a theory of linking, a theory related to the network organization of the academic webverse. We need a lot of epistemological developments. Of course, this is completely out from my experience, so I cannot contribute on this, but clearly this is a major shortcoming you need to consider. From the point of view of practical considerations, also there is a lot of problems. The major one is the sources we are using are not mostly opaque, are really opaque. The reason is very easy to understand. We are using commercial search engines, so the way they are working is a commercial secret. You can think, what is the value of Google? Well, the value of Google is the secret formula of the ranking mechanism. It's like the formula of the Coca-Cola. Without this formula, Coca-Cola is nothing. The value of Coca-Cola in the market disappears. Well, this is probably the same as Google, but for us, from the technical point of view, it's a big problem. Another problem is we have several sources, and we discovered, there are several papers published on this, we discovered the geographical coverage is completely uneven, the geographical and linguistic biases are strong, so you need this to take into account. Even when you go to obtain data, sometimes the data you obtain are not the same, even if you are using the same request in two different consecutive moments, so there is some irregular behavior. We develop strategies to try to solve this, but still is a big problem. There is no quality control. Well, this is not feasible. It's not feasible. The web is so huge, so big that it's not probably to obtain this quality control even in the near future. It's completely unfeasible. Even we have, this was a bit a surprise for me, but 2 years ago, some people from Germany discovered that bad practices regarding manipulation in Google Scholar. And it's not as difficult as we presume previously. So, well, I don't want to give you ideas, but Google Scholar can be manipulated, so you need to take care. Well, in order you understand what is the new generation of web indicators, what is the meaning, I think the best way to show that is making a comparison with the equivalent indicators in the traditional bibliometric world. So you have regarding activity, you have publications, you have authors, you have institutions. In the case of web biometrics, you have web pages, you have documents. For example, in the case of the web, they are clearly identified by the file type. For example, many of them are in PDF format, Adobe Acrobat, and so on. In the case of impacts, I mentioned before, you have citations and you have links. You have not only total number of citations, for example, you have this development by the group SciMago, that is SciMago journal ranking, that in fact is an application of PageRank to the journals. Not every citations have the same weight. Like in Google, the algorithm for ranking is based on PageRank. That means that you are counting total number of links, but not every link, every link has not the same value. Well, the same idea is used both in PageRanks and in SciMago journal rankings. For networks, for building networks, you can build networks with co-authorship, with co-citation, bibliographic coupling. Okay, you can use co-links, co-mentions, interlinks, and so on. This is interesting because usage metrics is still not completely development, but the main reason is because till now there are few studies talking about, for example, circulation of journals. It's a topic difficult to obtain data, and also difficult to understand the meaning of a journal having, I don't know, 10,000 issues distributed, or having 1 million readers. There is no many information, but the situation could change considerably in the case of web, because really you have access to this data. You need to think about that. Of course, you can analyze the sources. I talk about the strong biases on Google and other search engines, but well, there is also during the last years a lot of papers debating the Anglo-Saxon biases of WOS or Scopus and other similar things. And you can develop composite indicators. You know, the most important rankings of universities, like Times Higher Education or QS, are based on bibliometric plus survey data. Well, we are using web for developing rankings, as we will show later. Well, this is an example. It's pretty easy to obtain, for example, the number of documents available from the OST. There are more than 400 PDF documents. I don't know, perhaps it's too many, perhaps it's not enough, but the data can be obtained very easily. You can see, according to Google, that is used by 99% of the people using the Internet of the world, you have access to more than 400 documents coming from the OST. It's pretty easy. Pretty. In fact. Regarding link analysis, well, we have several possibilities. We can count only links, we can count number of links, or we can count the impact we have on another, and the impact another we have half of us. We can count in links, we can count out links. It's very interesting. Perhaps we can try to analyze, of course, in very small scenarios, about motivations for linking. As I mentioned before, motivations are more varied, more rich, and more diverse than citations. You need to consider it. You can build networks, and of course, this is possible because we have access to this kind of information. Well, here is a very important point. Till 2011, we have a free access to this information provided by several of the search engines, you know, especially Yahoo. But unfortunately, in 2010, Yahoo and Microsoft reached an agreement, and now Yahoo no longer exists as independent database. They are using the data from Bing. So the system of providing links is discontinued. Now we have only commercial system that ask money for this. Fortunately, the quality of the systems is very good. It's far better than the services provided by Yahoo. Of course, Yahoo offers the services free. These new sources are asking for money, and the quality is higher, and also the price. Well, the price is not very expensive. We have agreements with several of them, and even in the funding economic citation we have in Spain, still we can pay for it, not very expensive. So you can think the situation, fortunately, has been solved after the crisis of 2011. And finally, you can use your own data sources using crawlers or robots. You can develop by yourself. This is a strategy some of the people working on webometrics are applying, but well, still not very popular because you need a lot of computer resources. Sometimes you need to customize the system, and you need to have a strong knowledge of informatics that is not easy. Well, I'm going to introduce the three main providers of link data. There are one American from the United States, this one, another from England, from United Kingdom, and the last one, surprise, came from Ukraine. So it's a very interesting new actor in this area. Here you can see, I'm going to focus not on the providers, but on the results. Here you can see I obtained the data from OST, and here you can see the list of institutions linking to OST. And you can see very interesting developments. You are linked from the Observatoire des Observateurs. You can see you are linking from the patent database, the American patent database, and the Ministry of Higher Education and Research, and from European Union, of course. So it looks interesting. You have access to this kind of information. Very interesting point. You don't need a subscription to obtain this basic data. You only need to register. Registration is easy, is free, and you can have access to a very basic, rustic report. But sometimes could be enough. Sometimes could be enough. This slide was obtained in this way, so you can see you can obtain very good information without spending any euro. Here you can see this is for is part of the most problematic part of my presentation, because I'm going to try to explain why the French university is not performing well in our ranking. Well, here is one of the explanations. This is using the same source, and you can see I compare Harvard, Cambridge, Sao Paulo in Brazil, and UNAM in Mexico with Marie Curie, Paris 6. And okay, this is 5 because it's the free part of the system. You can compare till 5 different systems free. And you can see that, for example, the total number of links in the case of Harvard, 60 millions, Cambridge 5 millions, half a million USP, almost 1 million for UNAM, not even 100,000 for Paris 6. Well, these are data, not my data. This is the data they are collecting, and these are data we are using for basing our ranking. This is the second one. This is the United Kingdom, the British one. You can see the system is very similar. Again, OST, and you can see 1,000 different institutions are linking you with a mean of 10 links per institution. It's not bad. It's not bad. If you think about the services you are offering, you can think, okay, there is 1 or 2 institutional links. We are linking you because you are OST. And perhaps there are 7, 8 additional links to individual reports, individual departments, or individuals, or this event, for example. And you can think, oh, it's a rich environment taking into account the amount and the characteristics of information OST is offering in website. So you can think, okay, it's a low number. Not at all. Perhaps not at all in the ratio. Perhaps this number could be improved, because 1,000 institutions is far less than 20,000 universities worldwide, or 20,000 research centers worldwide, or something like that. But again, you need to think about that. Here again, we have the same situation. You can see a longer list of institutions linking you. And here it's interesting because there are other actors involved. Not only ministries, not only patent databases, not only CORDIS, European Union. You can see there are several different institutions. For example, there is a Catalan one. It's very interesting. One of the people working in my country are linking you. Of course, there are several other institutions. Again, this report is free. If you register, I think the total number is free. The first 250. That is a big number. 250 for you is 1/4 of the total number. Well, part of the explanations of the problem. Well, you need to see that, this is the third one. This is the Ukrainian one. And again, OST. And you can see the distribution of the domains. Here, the top-level domains, the countries or the institutions. For example, EDU, not here, not here, not here. EDU is American universities. American universities are not linking you. Interesting. But you have an impact, for example, on European Union, of course France, Canada, Belgium, okay, language, very interesting. In Europe, Italian, Denmark, Poland, Colombia. I think the reason is because you are linked with the Colombian Observatory of Science. I know them personally, so, and again, our friends from Catalonia. Oh, more or less interesting. Huh? Perhaps you need to know how Catalonia is here and Spain is not here, but this is now a political issue, so better not to discuss. Okay, and this is one of the things we are trying to develop. We made an analysis of 2,100 universities of the world, and we see the interlinking, and we discovered there is a core, a strong core, mainly, Anglo-Saxon core. United States, United Kingdom, and surprisingly, Canada. Canada is part of the American, there is no Canadian here. No. Canada is part of the United States in the academic sense of the word. And you can see different circles, and here you can see probably very small institutions, mostly private institutions, coming from Southeast Asia, Latin America, but the core is North America and United Kingdom. We are going to publish this in the future because we are trying to produce more meaningful slides, because only you can see here ants, a large group of ants. And for example, in application regarding using composite indicators, we have now a lot of working on the concept of composite indicator. Is the ranking web of universities. This is the European ranking, and you can see a lot of French universities. No French university at all. Well, perhaps we need to think about that. I have more slides about this. Well, iMetrics. iMetrics is a new concept introduced by Jason Prim, an American, very young person. I hate the name. I blame himself personally about coining this name because it means nothing. Alternative. It's not very interesting, but it has been a great success because everybody knows that today informal communication in the web is increasingly important, very, very important. Well, we are talking about mentions from major search engines. You can consider the traditional ones, but here, for example, I added two very important from a demographic point of view search engines, Yandex, the Russian one, and Baidu, the Chinese one. So you need to consider not only the Western ones, but also Yandex or Baidu. You can see the mentions in closed groups, not only universities, but hospitals, research centers, political parties, firms, any company, and so on. Even in repositories. From the point of view of academia, repositories, open access repositories, becoming more and more important. But not only in the web, especially in the Web 2. iMetrics is Web 2. We are considering mentions in the Wikipedia, very important, mentions in the blogs, mentions in social sites, of course Facebook or Google+, but also ResearchGate, Academia Edu, social networks, especially suited for us, so we need to consider, full text collections, Google Books. Why not Amazon? Amazon is providing a lot of information worldwide level, multimedia, Twitter, and especially social bookmarking. For example, now it's becoming very popular Mendeley. So there is a lot of information available from here. Well, the tool for making iMetrics is mention analysis. We can use traditional bibliographic units. You already know the name of author, the name of the title of the paper, the name of the institution, but there are new units to use. For example, codes. DOI is becoming more and more popular. today, most of the editorials are providing individual DOI to each bibliographic paper they publish. So it's very interesting because it's a unique number, and it's a number that has not 2 meanings or 3 meanings. It's only this paper, and you can use this. But not only bibliographic units you can use for mention analysis. You can use many other things. Of course, institution names. This is interesting. But even more interesting, for example, hot topics. Hot topics has an advantage because everybody knows this topic, but a clearly identified name. For example, climate change. Most of the people referring to this topic are using this sentence. So in this way, we can reduce the noise of the results. And for many of the most important academic, scientific topics today, there are a hot name we can use. And of course, these standardized names are very useful. They are also useful, for example, for supersites, large directories, large databases, for collections of software slides. You can think about SlideShare, for example, the great bank of slides presentations, for events, even for email addresses. Interesting. Not many people are using in the academia anonymous addresses. Anonymous refer to hotmail.com, not gmail.com. They are using their own institution. I don't know, st.fr, and so on. And even coded objects. For example, you can use even chemistry formulas because they are described in a very normalized and very standardized way. Well, here you have the biggest problem. The biggest problem is we can obtain, for example, data from mention from my own university. My alma mater is 6 million mentions, but in the Spanish official version, if you add the English version, there is 1/10 more, and if you combine both, surprisingly, the number is not 120%, it's even larger. And there are many other options, so you need to take care about that. Well, the explanation for this is very simple. Google declares they support Boolean operators. It's not true. It's not true. Well, this is part of the developments we made. You need to study the sources and to know exactly why they are working, and even discovering their declarations are not true. They are not supporting Boolean operators. As easy as that. Here is an example of Mendeley. In this case, mention analysis can use not only the traditional mention, but for example, a different kind of recognition. In this case is the number of readings. Mendeley is a bookmark system. Here, for example, you have the case of Benedetto Lepori, Swiss, Italian-Swiss, or Swiss-Italian, Swiss-Italian researcher, scientist. They have 17 publications in this database, and they receive a total of, most of them are read, and the H index, but not based on citations, but on reading, is 7. That is pretty high, taking into account the total number is only 17. In fact, they have a publication that is read 23 times. You can say the numbers are still low. Yes, because it's a very young product. But the numbers is growing exponentially. Beyond mentions, this is a case of beyond mentions. You can consider in not only mentions, but ratings, reviews, comments, likes or dislikes, a common feature of Facebook, for example. Bookmarks, you can use clusters, etc. About usage, we are going to talk later, so it's better to skip. But here you have some examples. This is made by a British scientist studying the 24 top British universities, in this case, using the likes of Facebook or using the Twitter data. You can see every university has at least one profile in Facebook or one profile in Twitter, and you can see the numbers. Of course, you can expect Cambridge, as you can see here, is in the top in the case of Facebook, clearly, because obviously Cambridge is one of the best, or perhaps the best university in Europe, and the numbers are far higher. But for example, in the case of Twitter, the numbers are not so different to the rest, and in some cases, the impact is even below the impact of other institutions. And this is very interesting for explanation. The global impact of Cambridge is larger, because Cambridge is a very important institution, is having a more diverse and more general impact as a whole. But for individual events, and this is what you can tackle with Twitter, for individual events, there is no reason for every individual event Cambridge should be the first. And this is a great advantage, because we already know that as overall evaluation, Cambridge is first, but not for every individual event. And Twitter is able to identify this situation and to establish the ranking on this situation. Jason Prim, the founder, the person who coined the term, developed this place. It's free. You need to provide your CV, your list of publications, and for each publication, it can be a full paper, or can be, for example, slides, or a collection of software or something. They provide a lot of indicators. The explanation of this is here, because the indicators they are using, you can see there are two big sets. One is mostly impact of scholars, but the important thing is also providing the impact of general public. And each one of these sources refers to different public, to different scenarios. And here you can see, for example, Wikipedia. This paper has been used in Wikipedia. This is very interesting, because you can say, okay, they receive several citations, perhaps has an impact on a very small group of the same group of colleagues who are working with you, but when you are having an impact not only on your closed group of the people working on the same topic, but your paper is added to the Wikipedia, you can expect the contribution of this paper becomes more and more important. Well, of course, you need to go into detail to make analysis, but it's very interesting. This is beta version, but working very fast and very easy to do and completely free. A more established proposal is PLOS. You know, PLOS One is already the larger journal in the world. In 2011, they published 6,000 papers. In this year, already they have more than 10,000. This year, 10,000 papers. It's the largest journal in the world. And one of the big contributions of this system is they are providing metrics. And metrics here means downloads or visits, but for example, traditional citations coming from Scopus, of WOS, coming from Google Scholar, and iMetrics information. And all of this is provided automatically. In fact, this is an API, and you can customize this API that is available from the authors. You can customize your API for your own journal. If some of you is editor of a journal, adding this interface is pretty simple, and you can obtain the same level of rich statistics environment that PLOS is offering. Oh, sorry. Well, usage metrics. Unfortunately, this is the newest development, and there is a lot of problems for obtaining data to analyze, but I think it's very promising. There are several ways to obtain data. You can obtain data directly from the server. This is a big problem because of privacy issues. Many people are visiting you, and perhaps you don't want to know others who is visiting you, so it's a big problem. But it's possible to extract data if you have access to these logs, and these logs are huge. Even for short periods, several months, you can obtain millions of visitors. So a lot of information to analyze. You can use external tools. The most important is Google Analytics. Google Analytics is free, and you can obtain a lot of information. But there is a more important advantage of Google Analytics. Google Analytics is becoming the standard. That means that if you are publishing your data or a set of your data obtaining from Google Analytics, other people using Google Analytics can compare because the system is working in the same way. That is not ever the same when you are using alternative systems. Google Analytics is the best system. Probably, I don't know, but it's the standard. If there are another that can be better, the problem is you cannot compare because most of the people are using Google Analytics. You need to take this into account. It's the standard de facto. And finally, there are other usage sources. For example, when you contract with Elsevier or another journal provider, an electronic library to your university, you have access to a lot of information. But the problem, most of this information is private. But you have a good example, the American Measure project, that is using data from several universities, contracting these electronic libraries to several providers, and they collect a lot of information. So it's another source you can use. Well, usage metrics, the discipline, usage analysis, the tool. You can analyze the traffic, the global presence of your institution. There are several alternatives, but in fact there is only one source you can use, that is called Alexa. That is not most reliable. They have problems, and it's strongly biased from a geographical point of view, but still you can make analysis, and you can count data directly from your log file. You can count number of visits, number of visitors, origin of the visitors, number of pages they visit, a lot of information. Perhaps the most important is if they came from search engines, you can analyze the terms and sentences they use for reaching you. And this is a very rich environment. From a semantic point of view, of course, but also from a practical point of view. Because you can see not only the top words they are using to reaching you, but especially the long tail. And analyzing the long tail is very interesting too. Well, I have here two examples. This is, again, the case of Paris 6. And here you can see one of the explanations. Before we talk about links, links is a far better indicator than usage. But usage is also very interesting because you can see the number of visits, again, of Paris 6 is far below the other three competitors, four competitors, sorry, Harvard, Cambridge, Sao Paulo, UNAM, and here is the reason. You can see the impact is mainly on France, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco. The reason is most of the information is French, is in French. Well, perhaps here is part of the problem. There is no enough international information. Well, you know, when I say international, I'm referring to English, you know. Well, perhaps this is one of the explanations. This is Google Analytics. I like to say Google Analytics, they said they are providing 200 different indicators, variables. Not all of them are useful for us, but in 200 different indicators, you have a lot of information you can use. Well, I'm going to finish. We are going to change the mode of the research, not publish or perish, but web publish or perish. Why not? Why not? There is a lot of reasons for web publishing or publish on the web. And if you do that, clearly the quality of the tools I am introducing here are going to better reflecting the true situation. I am proposing here link, mention, and using analysis not applied individually, isolated, but applying jointly with citation analysis. If you do that, you have several advantages. You are reaching larger audiences, you are considering different kinds of contributors or readers or objects of impact. You are considering different reasons for linking, using, or mentioning a far complex situation. And of course, there are problems. We are working on these problems. Of course, people are working from a philosophical point of view, trying to develop new theoretical background. We are working on the reliability of the data, the reliability of the data sources. Well, we are working on this. But at the end, and this is the main reason I am here, I want to show you that there are enormous opportunities for working on this area, because we are offering a set of tools that are answering traditional problems not very easy to solve using bibliometric tools. That is all. Thank you very much for your attention.